And welcome back to Devlog, where we are absolutely quackers about code. In the last part, I ate some seeds off the ground, and in this part, I work on the level ending logic. The logic for the level in itself is pretty simple. It mostly relies on organizing timers for different visual effects to play. But this can mostly be handled with animation events and is something I will discuss in the animation section of the devlog. But mostly what the ending in the level needs to do is it needs to register when the player has entered the ending of the level, it needs to play specific animations, it needs to play specific audio cues, it needs to check values from the player, for example the player's deaths, the player's level time, the player's collectibles in this level. It then needs to send all this information to UI elements. It needs to tell the game control that the player has finished the level and their level time has been completed, and it needs to then tell the game control that the level has also been completed and that we can save this level. This is all done pretty simply. Luckily I coded this after I had coded the save functions for saving level checkpoints, saving level endings, saving level progress, things like that, so a lot of these can be handled manually. So what we do is we wait for the player to enter into the level exit, we wait for the player to be on the ground while also in the level exit, so animations can be played properly with the player on the ground. We will then tell the level control that we have finished this level. What this does is have the level control register as our level time. This is how long we took to beat the level as our actual time for beating the level as a high score. This is saved if it is beaten our previous high score or the default of 9,999 minutes to beat a level. We will then save the player's progress that this level has been completed. This is just saving to the save file that the level has been completed. If the level has already been completed, this is unnecessary, so who cares? All other information is saved to the save file or the game control as we complete it, but we will then save the entirety of the save file one last time because this will be the end of the level and it's important to save the player's progress pretty immediately after ending the level. One interesting thing about the logic for ending a level is that I have to reset the player's checkpoint and reset the player's level time based on this. This is for a very simple reason. The player is going through the level, they have finished the level, they go into another level and they play through that level. But then when they go back to playing the first level again that they have previously beaten, they will spawn at the end of the level and they will have a level time that is very long. So this is obviously not what we need. Once the player has beaten the level, they should be able to enter the level again and play through the beginning of the level. So what I do in this instance, once the player has beaten the level, I will reset the level's respawn index and chunk index to 0, meaning the player is starting from the beginning of the level, and set the level's actual time, playtime, to 0 once again. So then the level entrance can read that this level has been beaten and also has no progress on it. And that is mostly a check for future devlogs where I add level loading once you have beaten the level and being able to load from any checkpoint in the level once you have beaten the level. But for now, those values are just reset to make it less complicated. Once this is finished, we will just wait for our animations, wait for our timers in the level, and wait for the actual level ending to play out. Once this has happened, we can wait for the player to press one input and they can finish the level. All this does from this point is transition back to the level select hub. The visuals for the level ending is a funny big pile of coins that Pep-Pel looks at and says, "Wow, it's a lot of money." I wasn't particularly sure what to make that would read as an exit or a way to finish a level. One of my original ideas was having level endings having these magical mirrors that Pep-Pel interacts with and has a whole scene with, but it felt a little bit complicated and didn't really match with the whole style that I wanted to go for. They felt a little bit mystical and magical when Pep-Pel in realistically is just a greedy little goblin thing. So I just made a pile of money with a treasure chest that has an item in it that Pep-Pel can collect. These items are called the Treasured Tails, which may be the subtitle of Pep-Pel, Pep-Pel and the treasured tails. They're basically just weird tail things that have jewels inside of them that Pep-Pel can collect. Then each of these treasured tails has a visual style indicative of the level that they are in. For example, the trash trail, which is the level we're currently inside, the tail for this area is golden, but it's faded and rusty and has a bunch of grass and junk on it. These are plot relevant. What is the plot of my game, you may ask? Don't worry about it. The visuals for the level exit is mostly just a bunch of coins that I made that you may be able to see throughout the level. And then a bunch of chests and a bunch of gems. I wanted to make these very fitting with the level as well, so I think for levels in the future I will also try and arrange these in a manner that would make sense for the level, but right now they're mostly just stuck in the middle of a rock in this final level with Pep-Pel collecting things. There's a few added pipes and wooden elements that have coins on them for the final level, but mostly it's just a big pile of money in the middle of nowhere that Pep-Pel finds. On one hand, I enjoy that it's just there in the middle of nowhere and it looks kind of silly. On the other hand, I would rather have these level exits fit in with the environment slightly more. Onto the animations, there are technically 3 of these, but they're overlapped with matching times. The first one of these is Pep-Pel opening the treasure chest. This is just Pep-Pel finding the treasure chest at the end of the level, turning around, opening it, rooting around inside, and then pulling out the treasured tail item. This is completely individual and has no relation to the other animations, but luckily since they have the same length and speed, I can just match these animations by keyframes. At the same keyframe that Pep-Pel opens the chest, the animation of the actual chest is set to open. Then when Pep-Pel pulls the treasure out, I have the treasure fly out and position itself relatively above where Pep-Pel would be standing. For the actual level exit itself, there is a few animations. I have the treasure tail pulling out of the chest, I have the chest opening, the lock falling off the chest, and then I have a spotlight which focuses in on Pep-Pel. I'm a little uncertain about this because it could look a little bit jarring for the player, but I think having this black spotlight focus in on the player really adds to the impact of this scene of Pep-Pel rooting around for a thing, and it makes it read a little bit better as the end of the level because you're having this big UI element that's focusing on the player. It makes it more dramatic. Then finally I have the actual UI visuals pop in. These have a very simple animation. They basically just float into the scene once the animation event for the treasure rooting has finished. These just say which level you have finished, the stats for the level, and then a button to say that you can exit the level by pressing the jump button. One possible idea I had for this level exit is to make the actual level exit a bit more interactive. The level exit involves Pep-Pel running up to a chest, opening the chest, and retrieving a treasured item from it, but there is a lock on the chest. One idea I had is having this final level, or final section of the level, have a key hidden somewhere inside of it that Pep-Pel has to collect and bring to the chest to be able to unlock it. I think this would make the level exit a bit more dynamic and fun for the player, but I also feel like it could be a bit confusing for players. If they can't find the key, they may think that it is somewhere else in the level, since sections of the level are not clearly organized or telegraphed to the player. They're more open and dynamic, so realistically, a player could think that the key is anywhere in the level, in opposed to just in the immediate surroundings. One solution I could have for this is once in the actual final section of the level, I could just show where the key is and then maybe have a challenge to get to the key. But again, I feel like this could be a bit confusing, or I like the idea of having levels having one final challenge at the end where you have to find a key, but at the same time I feel like it could be a bit much, and I also have the final challenge at the level being the section shortly before finding the treasure chest. So it may not work particularly well. Finally, we had the Pep-Pel coins. This has nothing to do with the exit, but I felt like including it. These are the funny little golden coins that are around the levels now. I really like how these look. They're actually a 2D sprite with another 2D sprite, which gives the impression of their actual 3D side when they are twisted and turned around. So I'm using two 2D sprites to have a fake 3D effect. Since I'm a 3D artist, I could have very easily just made these a 3D model and not have the difficulty, but I wanted to try this effect. I think it looks pretty well, and I also think the Pep-Pel coins look pretty nice in the scene. What do these coins do, you may ask? Nothing. They're absolutely nothing. They don't even track score, they aren't tracked in the level, it's nothing. All these coins do is direct the player of where to go, but they make a funny sound and they look enticing, so I hope most players will collect them and not question why. Maybe I will tie these as another collectible in the future, but for now they are just coins the player can collect for no reason. But I'm mostly using these to direct players along paths. If I want the player to be able to read that they should jump off a rope at a specific time, or if I want the player to be able to read that they should jump down a passageway or climb up a wall, I can just arrange some coins in this area that the player can look at and see the coins having a path, and then they can follow this path. And that's it for devlog. Devlog over. Next devlog, buttons. Goodbye.